Huh. Stag beetles, chameleons, lobsters, and random lizards. I think the glass works of Amalric Walter may just be the best fine art antiques ever made. So this dish with the lobster was made in the 1920s in Nancy, France, by a glassmaker named Amalric Walter. Now, I'll probably butcher some French in this video, but I will try my best. Walter was a master at a technique of glassmaking called Pâte de Verre, which means paste of glass, where grains of glass of different colors and sizes are put into a mold and melted in a kiln. He usually made small pieces, small dishes for cufflinks or studs, pen trays to hold fountain pens, inkwells, ring trays, paperweights, and the like. Much of his work is decorated with a nature, or more specifically, an animal theme: lizards, crabs, moths, beetles, flying fish, cicadas. This piece is called a vide poche, which is French for empty pockets. So you might keep this dish on your dresser or on a table by the front door and put your coins or keys in it, hence the name empty pockets. But I wouldn't recommend that today. You could make a very expensive mistake. It's decorated with a brown and red lobster at the far end with antennae that run down the length of the bowl, echoing the shape of the entire dish. I purchased this many years ago from the estate of an antiques dealer in Morro Bay, California, who'd gotten it from an estate in San Diego in the 1970s. The daughter of the antiques dealer said her mother kept the best pieces and sold the rest, and this had been in their house for more than 30 years, so it was in the best pile. So who was Amalric Walter? Well, the first point I'd like to make is the man's name is Amalric, not Almeric. Some of the large auction houses, Christie's in particular, are notorious for getting his name wrong. Can you imagine being an artist and somehow over the course of history someone bastardizes the spelling of your name and it sticks? Walter was born in 1870 outside Paris. His grandfather and father were ceramic painters, and when he was 15, he was admitted to the porcelain school of Sèvres. So he too originally trained in ceramics. He began working in Pâte de Verre, and by 1903, Antonin Daum offered him a studio position with Daum in Nancy. Here he met Henri Berger, who was an artist who created many of the original sculptures that Walter made in glass. That's one of the interesting takeaways about Walter. He worked as a team. He commissioned a sculptor to sculpt the figures, and Walter worked to bring them to life in glass. He worked at Daum up until 1914 when the factory closed because of World War I. After the war, he decided to leave Daum and set up his own studio. He worked with many of his old molds and with many of the same artists he'd worked with at Daum. And the period of the 1920s is when Walter's technique, style, detail, and quality were at their high points, and he produced some amazing Art Nouveau style objects. By the 1930s, Art Nouveau was in decline, Art Deco was on the rise, and the Great Depression was raging in Europe. Walter transitioned to Art Nouveau with amazing stylized fish, ducks, and flying fish. But over the course of the 1930s, he downsized his studio, and it finally closed when Walter had to leave Nancy in 1939 on the verge of World War II. After the war, he returned to Nancy, but his career was essentially over. He grew more destitute over time, went blind, and died in 1959 at the age of 89. So how is Pâte de Verre made? Once an object is sculpted, it's copied in wax. A mold is built around this copy, then heated so the wax runs out. You're left with an empty mold, and the mold is filled with different colored glass. Walter had a few tricks for doing this well. First, the initial layer of glass was made up of a paste of glass. Small granules of glass were mixed with a binding agent and painted on the mold. Then different colors and different sizes of glass powder or granules were put in the mold and tamped down. It was put in a kiln, and after cooling, the mold was removed. Now this is a simple process in concept, but it's actually hard to execute. When the glass melts, it's very easy for all the colors to run together. So to keep colors from mixing or streaking, Walter used a lead glass that was 50% lead, very high, compared to lead crystal, which is made up of about 30% lead. This enabled the melting process to happen at a lower temperature and helped prevent the mixing of colors. The best book on Walter is called Amalric Walter, 1870 to 1959, by Keith Cummings with photography by Simon Bruntnell. It was published by Broadfield House Glass Museum in England in 2006. The book is invaluable. The big takeaway is that it shows that Walter was a master of his craft and a perfectionist. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and catch you next time.